What if one rainy day changed your life forever, sending you to the Joseon era, into the arms of a king, and forcing you to choose between love and your own future? The story begins with Danbi, an ordinary 12th grade student with only a few days left before her university entrance exam, but her preparation is almost non-existent, especially in math. Danbi is terrible at math. Every time she tries to study it seriously, she ends up falling asleep. Fed up with her constant dozing off, the teacher makes her stand in front of the class and solve a problem. Just like always, she fails. Furious, the teacher scolds her in front of everyone. When Danbi gets home, instead of doing her homework, she starts watching TV and scrolling on her phone. Her mother walks in and snaps at her, saying that if Danbi could memorize math formulas the way she memorizes song lyrics, her life would be much better. She even compares Danbi to her father, saying he was terrible at math too, like father, like daughter. She warns her that with grades like these, Danbi won't get into any university. Then she angrily changes the TV channel. Upset and frustrated, Danbi storms out of the house to meet her best friend. They have fun together. Afterward, her friend reminds her that this is her last chance. If she fails now, her future will be completely ruined. The next morning, Danbi wakes up late. Today is the main university entrance exam. As she rushes out, her mother encourages her, telling her to stay focused and do her best. But Danbi is extremely nervous, especially about the math section. Still, she tries studying on the bus all the way to the exam center. It starts raining heavily. As soon as the bus stops, she jumps off and starts running, forgetting her umbrella behind. As she reaches the exam building, fear begins creeping in. Her heart starts racing. She knows she isn't prepared. Panic attacks hit her hard, and the fear of failing completely overwhelms her. Unable to face it, Danbi runs away and sits down in the rain. Her heart sinks deeper with every second. She wishes she could just disappear. In front of her, rainwater gathers into a large puddle. As she steps closer to the puddle, she sees the reflection of several people in it. When she places one foot inside, she realizes how deep it is. Trying to escape the exam, Danbi runs forward and jumps straight into the puddle. When she jumps in, she is suddenly taken many years back to the Joseon era. She is still wearing her school uniform and looks around in shock as she finds herself inside the king's palace. A ritual is taking place, asking the sky for rain, as it has not rained in Joseon for 3 years. Everyone is praying desperately for rain. At first, Danbi thinks she is on the set of a historical movie and asks if this is a filming scene. She pulls out her phone, and everyone around her is shocked by the strange object. The king begins questioning her, asking who she is and whether she is a goblin or a human. The soldiers quickly surround her with their swords. When Danbi realizes the swords are real, she panics. She then understands that she has actually time-traveled to the past and that this is truly the Joseon era. Remembering a scene from a historical movie about how people prayed for rain, Danbi starts shouting dramatic lines from the movie, yelling, "Let the rain fall." The people believe she has been sent from the heavens to help them in their crisis. They repeat her words and fall to their knees. Using this moment to distract them, Danbi finds a chance to escape. She runs away, finds a place to hide behind a eunuch's clothes, and decides to disguise herself as a eunuch so no one will recognize her. She quietly sits among the scholars during a royal meeting. During the discussion, King Li-du says that instead of blindly believing in superstitions, they should turn towards science. He believes that problems can be solved through logic and mathematics. However, the chief priest angrily rejects this idea, calling it nonsense. He claims that math itself is meaningless and that equations should never be used to understand nature. At that moment, the clash between science and belief truly begins. The chief priest insists that the reason it hasn't rained is because the heavens are angry with them. According to him, there is only one way to bring the rain back. The king must spend the night with his queen and produce an heir. Danbi is present at the meeting, and while everyone is arguing, she quietly sneaks out to look for her phone. But before she can escape, she is caught again. As they wait for King Li-du to arrive, Danbi desperately hopes that if it somehow rains, she might be able to escape this place. But when the king arrives, he coldly declares that it hasn't rained for 3 years and that he doesn't trust her at all. To force her to reveal where she actually came from, he raises his sword and threatens to cut off one of her arms. Terrified, Danbi begs for her life. She explains that she is just a high school student from the future and that she came here by accident. She tries to convince him by talking about history, but nothing works. Then, in a last-ditch effort, she blurts out that she is good at math. This makes the king pause. He tells her to prove it and gives her a problem based on the Pythagorean theorem. At first, Danbi is confused by the ancient symbols, but once she understands what the problem actually is, she solves it quickly. The king is left stunned. He admits that even his best scholars take 3 days to solve such a problem, while she did it in minutes. King Li-du tells her that if she teaches him math, he will cancel her punishment and send her back home. Danbi has no other choice, so she agrees. However, she is given one condition: she must live there disguised as a boy. No matter what era she is from, women are not allowed to be teachers at that time, nor are they allowed to be this close to the king. To Danbi's shock, the king is so bad at math that he doesn't even know basic counting. Patiently, she starts teaching him from the very beginning: numbers, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and more. It is difficult for Danbi to adapt to her new lifestyle and situation. The king constantly asks her to review his work and help him solve problems so he can improve his math skills. He has now learned all the numbers and how to write them, so he practices basic addition and multiplication. Throughout the time Danbi is with him, the royal workers keep arguing with the king, insisting that math and science won't have any positive effects. However, the king wants everyone to learn how to write and have basic knowledge in every field. Danbi prepares to quiz him on the multiplication tables. He becomes very serious and wants to answer all of her questions correctly. She tells him that if he gets a question wrong, she will hit his forehead. When he answers one of the multiplication questions incorrectly, she hits his forehead, causing the nearby guard to immediately place his sword at her neck. However, the king tells them it is fine and orders everyone to leave, saying that he is enjoying this. He then asks Danbi to quiz him again. It becomes clear that the king enjoys how comfortable he feels around Danbi and how she treats him like a friend, while everyone else treats him only as a king. At that moment, the queen approaches. They quickly hide all the math papers and pretend they are just practicing music. Later, the king notices that Danbi looks extremely hungry. He invites her to eat with him but does not give her any food, instead mocking her as low-class dirt. To let the king taste her low-class food, Danbi takes him to the kitchen, pulls supplies from her bag, and cooks instant noodles. The noodles turn out extremely spicy, yet the king loves them. Even when Danbi offers him water, he refuses, proudly saying that he enjoys the spicy noodles. The next morning, screams echo through the palace. Danbi rushes to find the king and sees him wearing a protective talisman on his forehead, convinced that she has cursed him. Rolling her eyes, she explains that it isn't magic, it's just stomach pain caused by eating overly spicy noodles. No curse, no black magic, just indigestion. Confused, the king asks what a stomach even is. Danbi sits down and patiently explains the human body to him, what the stomach is, what the intestines do, and how the heart works. She tells him to place his hand on his chest to feel his heartbeat, but the king says he feels nothing. Smiling softly, Danbi tells him that one day, when he falls in love, he'll feel it clearly on his own. The king is deeply impressed by her knowledge. From that moment on, he begins seeing Danbi as a true royal scholar. He orders her to teach not just math, but also science and agriculture to all the scholars in the kingdom. Slowly, Danbi begins changing the fate of an entire nation. In the meantime, the king and Danbi have a lot of fun taking selfies together. At first, the king is surprised, but he soon starts enjoying it. Taking selfies brings them even closer, and even the queen begins to feel jealous of Danbi. That night, the king gives Danbi an orange. She thanks him and immediately eats it. This makes the king furious. He scolds her, saying that fruit like this is so precious it should be eaten over 3 days. Danbi casually replies that it's just an orange and there's no need for so much drama. Later, the king throws a ball to Danbi and asks her to play soccer with him. They start playing and have fun together. He tells her that, as a king, he doesn't get to do all the things he wants. Danbi tells him that he should enjoy his life, do the things he likes, and have fun. They start running around, get tired, and lie down on the ground. The king hasn't run or laughed like this in years. Their interactions slowly increase, and they grow closer and closer to each other. Suddenly, he stares at her, and she is surprised. The moment gives a lot of butterflies, but he points out that she is hiding something, a tangerine. Danbi believes that the king thinks she is a man and not a woman, as he keeps her by his side as a eunuch. However, the king already knows that Danbi is a girl and keeps pretending that he doesn't know. He has grown very close to her and keeps smiling whenever he thinks about her. One day, as he gets ready to leave the palace, he looks at himself in the mirror and realizes that he is smiling because he wants to meet Danbi. He places his hand on his heart and notices that it is beating faster than usual, which means he has slowly developed romantic feelings for her. Meanwhile, the queen's father tells her that she should meet the king that night and give him food containing a special powder so she can spend the night with him and give birth to a crown prince. On their orders, a maid adds the powder to a meal. However, the king does not eat it and instead offers the food to Danbi. She eats it, unknowingly ruining their plan. On the other hand, the queen believes that the king has eaten the food and goes to his room, trying to seduce him. However, it is Danbi who has eaten the food and is burning up from the effects of the powder. The queen tries her best to get close to the king, but he does not fall for her. While the king is talking with the queen, Danbi, overwhelmed by the powder's effects, suddenly drops the orange. She begins acting strangely and collapses, slipping into unconsciousness. The king catches her in his arms. Seeing this, the queen immediately leaves. Danbi continues behaving oddly, and the king carefully supports her. Danbi keeps saying that he is handsome and that she is slowly starting to fall for him. He doesn't say anything and quietly listens to her confessions. She says that she enjoys spending time with him and then suddenly falls asleep. The king keeps staring at her and says, "Do you think I keep you by my side just because I like it?" She briefly regains consciousness and tells him that she likes him a little but will leave him when it rains. She then hugs him tightly. Tempted and moved by her romantic words, the king leans in to kiss her. However, he stops himself, realizing that it wouldn't be right to kiss her in that state. He acts considerately and carefully, lifts her, and makes sure she rests well. When Danbi wakes up, she notices that she is hugging the king. Shocked, she quickly apologizes and leaves the room, but the king tells her that he will go with her, and they walk together. During their time together, the king promises her that if she succeeds in her mission, she will be given a respected position in the royal court, and as a reward, even a priceless horse. Danbi refuses the offer, saying that she wants nothing. She explains that the moment the first rain falls, she plans to return home. The king replies softly, telling her that until then, she shouldn't see him as a king, but as a friend. The queen's father and another minister plot to arrest Danbi, labeling her a traitor. They are worried because the king is learning new things about science and math from her, which they see as a threat. Danbi is captured, tied up, and tortured. The ministers hold a meeting with the king, pressuring him to punish Danbi for supposedly deceiving everyone into believing she was sent from the heavens to solve the rain crisis. The king calls Park Yun to bring the container used for drinking water and explains that Danbi suggested using it to measure rainfall, trying to convince everyone that she is truly a genius. A priest steps forward, skeptical, and declares that if this is true, he will personally test Danbi by giving her a difficult math problem. The challenge is to determine how people could know the time on a cloudy day without the sun. He warns that if she fails, she will be executed. Despite the threat, the king writes an order to stop Danbi's punishment, trusting her abilities. Still, the king worries about her safety. Frustrated and anxious, he goes out to the field and plays soccer alone, lying on the ground as memories of his time with Danbi flood his mind. He realizes he cannot imagine life without her. Danbi refuses to give up. She pours all her effort into solving the problem, working harder than she ever has on a single task. Finally, she solves it. At that moment, rain begins to fall. Overwhelmed with joy, Danbi notices a pit similar to the one she had fallen through when she first arrived in this world. She could return to her own time now, but she chooses not to. She wants to finish the king's work first. Using her calculations, she designs a system to measure and store rainwater. Meanwhile, the king recalls what Danbi had said, that she would leave him once it started raining. Fearing she might disappear, he rushes to find her. He eventually finds Danbi, who shows him the devices she created to collect and save rainwater, an essential tool for the kingdom. Overwhelmed, Danbi begins crying, telling him that she has never worked so hard for anything in her life. The king, deeply moved, admits that he has tried hard to accomplish something but has not succeeded. He places her hand on his chest so she can feel his heartbeat and hugs her tightly. Danbi could have returned to the present when it started raining, but she chose to be with the king. Meanwhile, the priest summoned Park Yun and ordered him to kill Danbi, insisting that she was a scholar from the future and a threat to the kingdom. Park Yun rushed to warn the king, telling him that people in the palace wanted Danbi dead. King Li-du immediately instructed Park Yun to take Danbi into the forest to keep her safe from the attackers. Back at the palace, the priest tried to convince the king to forget everything Danbi had taught him and return to old traditions. But King Li-du ignored him and went searching for her. In the forest, other attackers spotted Park Yun and Danbi. Park Yun quickly helped Danbi escape on horseback and stay behind to face them alone. Danbi rode on until she reached a place where she didn't know which way to go. Then she remembered something the king had once told her: the sun rises in the direction she needed to follow. Guided by the sunlight, Danbi continued her journey to safety. Meanwhile, the queen left the palace and noticed Park Yun, who was wounded. She seemed to have feelings for him but could not express them, as her father had forced her to marry the king. They shared sweet childhood memories and grew closer to each other. When Yun realized that she had walked all the way on foot despite her injuries, he began tending to her wounds. At Yun's home, the queen also helped care for his injuries. Meanwhile, guided by the sunlight, Danbi arrived by the sea, where the king was already waiting for her on horseback. The moment they met, he rushed to her and kissed her without saying a word. He hugged her tightly, relieved that she was safe, and Danbi felt comforted in his arms. That night, the two of them sit alone, watching the stars together and talking about the beauty of the shining sky. They cherish their reunion after all the danger and separation they have endured. Danbi tells him everything that led to her arrival in the Joseon era. Then King Li-du writes L, then O, then V, and finally E. He has seen these letters written by Danbi before, but doesn't understand what they mean. Danbi misunderstands his actions and shyly thinks he is confessing his love. However, after realizing the situation, she explains to him that writing L, O, V, E spells the word love. She then gives him chocolate, and the king is mesmerized by its extremely sweet taste. Later, the king grows deeply worried about the future of his kingdom. Sensing his concern, Danbi pulls out a currency note from the future. On it is the image of an elderly man dressed exactly like the king. In that moment, Danbi realizes the truth, that the king's face would one day be printed on Korean currency, and that he was destined to achieve something truly extraordinary in his life. The next morning, Danbi notices moss clogging the water system. She explains to the king that the water isn't dripping at a constant speed because the moss has trapped water and blocked the flow. That's why the dripping didn't match her calculations. The king takes her back to the palace, where they remove the moss. Once it's cleared, the water begins dripping at exactly the pace Danbi had predicted. Excited, Danbi asks the king for a high five and shows him how to do it, since he has never seen one before. They resume their lessons, reviewing multiplication tables. When Danbi makes a mistake, instead of flicking her forehead as usual, the king gently kisses it, surprising her. Over time, Danbi becomes close friends with the queen and even prepares instant noodles for her, which the queen absolutely loves. The queen, who does not truly love the king but harbors feelings for, lies to her father and tells him that the king has already spent the night with Danbi, something she believes she must accept. The queen then visits the dowager queen, the king's mother, and tells her everything about the king and Danbi. She believes Danbi is the woman destined to become the king's queen. However, the dowager queen disagrees and suggests that Danbi should become the king's concubine instead of his official wife. Soon after, Danbi is taken away by palace attendants and dressed in beautiful clothes, completely unaware of what is happening. Later, the maids inform her that she is being prepared for a private midday meeting with the king, one that would make her his first wife. Panicked, Danbi runs away. A servant quickly informs the king, and he immediately goes after her. When he finds her, he grabs her arm and pulls her into a room. Terrified, Danbi protests, saying, "You promised we'd just be friends. I'm only 19. The king teasingly replies that at her age, women are usually already mothers of 3. Then, softening his tone, he gently pulls her into a tight embrace. Then he reveals the truth, that his mother is extremely stubborn and wants to make Danbi his concubine, and there is no easy way out of this situation. He tells her to stay there for now, as people are searching outside and the king's chamber will be the safest place for her. He then tells her that she looks pretty today, making Danbi feel shy. That night, they sleep in the same room but on opposite sides. As they talk, the king tells her not to leave when it rains again, because he wants her to stay by his side forever. Danbi becomes tense and doesn't reply. Later, the king moves closer and falls asleep with his head resting on her arm, while she lies awake, staring at him. The next morning, the king practices confessing his feelings for Danbi. She overhears everything and becomes worried. The next day, the queen visits Danbi and tells her that someone wants to meet her. When Danbi steps outside, she is shocked to see the visitor. It is the king's mother, who is also her mother in the present. Overwhelmed by memories, Danbi breaks down in tears and calls her a mom, deeply missing her warmth and love. That night, Danbi observes the new system for counting days and months, one she herself helped design. For the first time, people would finally be able to track time accurately. Later, King Li-du takes Danbi to show her something he has been working on for a long time. He has created new letters, simple enough for ordinary people to learn and understand. He explains that he doesn't want knowledge to remain limited to only a few elites. Sincerely, he thanks Danbi, admitting that none of this would have been possible without her. The king asks Danbi to sit. Gently, he places a royal hairpin in her hair, a symbol of marriage, and asks her to stay with him forever. Danbi begins to cry and says that she can't stay. She reminds him of the promise she made to herself. The moment it rains, she must return. Her mother is waiting for her, trusting her completely. The king suggests that she go back, meet her mother, and then return, because he wants to stay with her. But Danbi refuses again and says that being with him feels like a beautiful dream. This deeply breaks him. Bitterly, he says she is right. Her future world is probably better than this one, a world filled with disease and drought. He tells her to do whatever she wants and storms out, heartbroken and shattered. Danbi remains standing there, unable to move. She begins to cry as well, realizing that he is the kindest person she could have ever dreamed of. After he leaves, someone suddenly strikes Danbi from behind, knocking her unconscious. The attacker then sets the entire building on fire. Meanwhile, the queen's father tells his daughter that Danbi will soon be gone, allowing her to win the king's heart. Enraged, the queen confronts her father and rushes to warn the king. The king runs back to the place where he left Danbi and finds it engulfed in flames. Prevented from entering, he uses a secret passage to get inside and desperately searches for her. He finally finds Danbi and collapses into tears as he hugs her tightly. The next morning, King Lidu directly accuses the priest, asking if he was the one who attacked Danbi and started the fire. The priest denies everything, but his hands are still covered in soot and ash. Coldly pointing out the evidence, the king says that even his crimes were poorly carried out. He then calls Danbi forward and asks if she recognizes the man's voice from the attack. Danbi answers yes. The priest is shocked to see her alive, believing he had killed her with his own sword. What he didn't know was that a book in Danbi's bag had blocked the blade, saving her life. Furious, the king demands the truth from the high priest. Falling to his knees, the high priest finally confesses. He explains that if the new language spreads, the youth will begin to think freely. That freedom, he believes, would shake society and could eventually destroy the kingdom itself. He claims he is not afraid of death, his life belongs to the throne. The king responds firmly, declaring that no matter how hard anyone tries to stop him, he will teach the people to read and write. Life is short, he says, why fear a future world we may never even live to see? The priest remains unmoved. He falls to his knees, pleading for death. Moments later, the sky darkens as heavy clouds gather. Knowing her time has come, Danbi says goodbye to her friends. She goes to the king and tells him that he will become a wise ruler, one who teaches his people to read and write, and that he will be loved by all. Her words bring him comfort. The king then takes her to the sea. As rain begins to fall, they laugh and play together, as if it is their final date. When the moment of separation arrives, the king lifts her so her feet will not touch the water. They share a heartbreaking farewell kiss, knowing they may never meet again. Loving her enough to let her go, the king releases her, and she falls into the water, returning to the present. In an instant, Danbi emerges in the same park where she first time traveled. Looking around, she realizes that only seconds have passed, and she still has time to reach her exam hall. She sprints as fast as she can and arrives just in time. The exam has already begun, and she quickly takes her seat and starts writing. Afterward, she runs home and hugs her mother tightly, realizing how deeply she values the people and the life she once took for granted. She later spends time with her best friend, who was also the queen in the Joseon era. One day, it rains again. Danbi notices a puddle and steps into it, but nothing happens. Missing the king deeply, she stands quietly in the rain. Suddenly, a boy approaches her, holding an umbrella. As he comes closer, she realizes it is the king, now living in the present. He smiles and says that they have met before. A flashback reveals that he was the boy who helped her pick up her books on the bus before her exam and kept her yellow umbrella so he could return it to her. They smile at each other, feeling the same familiar connection once again. Loved the story? Smash that like button and subscribe for more amazing movie recaps. Take care. Goodbye.